This is the Audi A6, but then you probably knew that because this is a car that's actually been on sale for quite some time, and it almost kind of shouldn't be on sale now, because in theory this car's replacement, the all-electric A6 e-tron, should have been here by now, but that got delayed by software issues. It's not arriving till later this year, so the old A6 soldiers on for a bit yet, even in the face of fresh new competition from the likes of the all-new Mercedes E-Class and the all-new BMW 5 Series and i5. Now, what's really surprising about this car, and incidentally, this car will actually still stay on sale alongside that A6 e-tron later this year, for a few months at any rate. The surprising thing about this one is that it's diesel. Yes, you can still buy brand new diesel cars. Who'd have thunk it? Under here is a 2-litre, 204 horsepower TDI turbo diesel engine, driving the front wheels, of course, through a 7-speed S-tronic dual clutch gearbox. None of that is particularly new, but Audi has done some small bit of titivating and updating to keep the A6 fresh. For instance, there's a new grille down here, which gets sort of more of an egg crate shell effect. There's new bumpers, the wheels are new, and there's new colours. This is Ascari blue. There's also a rather lovely grenadine red that you can choose from. But can a diesel A6 still be relevant in 2024? And what's it like to drive compared to its newer, fresher competition? Well, let's start by taking a look at the interior, and then we can work all that out as we go along. Now, I'm going to start this portion of the video by actually sitting into the car, because I want you to listen to the way the door shuts. That's a rather lovely noise, isn't it? And it's indicative of the kind of quality you get here in the interior of the A6. It is beautifully put together. Although, because it's all black and shiny kind of aluminium effect chromy stuff going on as well, it does look a bit kind of visually hard-edged and cold. And so on a cold day like today, it's not the kind of warmest and most welcoming interior. The new BMW i5 does that kind of thing much, much better, it has to be said. There is an updated virtual cockpit here behind the wheel, which is the digital instrument panel. That's rather nice. Slightly less nice is the infotainment screen, the MMI system, and the extra screen down here, which does the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. They're a bit fiddly to use. You know, again, some physical buttons would be good. There is a physical volume button, at least. That does help. I do like the aircraft style gear shift controller. The seats are fantastic. A little bit on the hard side, but really wonderfully supportive and generally very comfortable. And there's plenty of space. There's also good storage space. There's room under the armrest, 2 cup holders there, good door bins there, and a reasonably sized glove box there. So you're not going to be stuck from a practicality point of view. But what's it like in the back? Well, one advantage I think the A6 does have over its newer, fresher competition is the back, because it may not actually be any more spacious, but subjectively it feels more spacious. The back seat is set slightly higher than the front seat, so you actually get a really good view out to the front. Good view out to the sides too. Again, there's practical storage. There's nets here, good door bins, a little bit of space here. There is an armrest, and that has storage too. But it's a bit disappointing that there's no cup holders back here. That is a bit of a shame. Seat comfort is very, very good though. Plenty of knee room. There's little scallops here in the backs of the front seats for people with really long legs. And plenty of headroom too. And the boot is predictably enormous because, of course, this being a diesel, it doesn't have to cope with putting batteries anywhere. So it's really very spacious and practical. Although, as ever, I would say get the Avant Estate. It's better looking and even more practical and useful. But what's this big diesel saloon like to drive? So is there any relevance in driving a big diesel engine car like this in 2024? Well, yes and no. I mean, you know, we could petulantly point out that of total European emissions, only 12% are caused by private passenger cars. So you could take every single car off the road tomorrow and there'd still be 88% of all emissions to deal with. There's that. Then there's the fact that because this is a diesel car, you can run it on HVO or hydrogenated vegetable oil, which in theory represents a 90% cut in your CO2 emissions compared to using fossil diesel. Now, there is a great deal of controversy about that. There are plenty of people, proper experts, who will tell you that's absolute garbage, and that a lot of the HVO that is produced and used and pumped is actually coming from virgin palm oil brought in from the Far East, and that there's no way we can collect enough waste cooking oil in a country the size of Ireland, or indeed anywhere, to actually make enough of the stuff to make a viable difference. But that's possibly a debate for another day. What this A6 does really well, though, is remind us of the heights to which electric cars have yet to get, because this is, I think it's fair to say, an absolute pinnacle in the design and engineering of a diesel engine car. It's so smooth, it's so refined, it's so economical, it's so long ranged. I mean, it will do easily 1,100 kilometers on a single tank. Okay, that's a lot further than your bladder is likely to stretch in one sitting. Indeed, that's like going from one end of the country to the other and back a couple of times. But it just gives you that flexibility. It gives you that wonderful sensation of, I don't need to stop. I can stop when I want to, not when the gauge on the dashboard tells me to. And that is something that EVs have yet to conquer, other than experimental cars like Mercedes's EQXX. So that's it. If nothing else, this A6 TDI puts a pretty solid marker in the ground for its upcoming electric successors. It's also just a lovely thing in and of itself. It's so comfortable. It's very smooth. There's a bit of tyre roar, particularly on this stretch of motorway. A little bit of wind noise. It's not the most refined thing around. It doesn't have the steering sharpness of the BMW 5 Series, and it doesn't quite have the suspension comfort of the Mercedes E-Class, but it is in a kind of sweet spot between the two. It's a very, very pleasant car to drive, very easy, very relaxing. It matches perfectly that slow-moving fuel gauge and that unchanging, almost range to empty figure. It just is a car that knocks long distances off so easily in every respect. And for that, I do kind of like it. It's also quite good value, and I do mean that in completely relative terms. Starting price for the A6 2-litre TDI is €67,000. This one is 76 because it's got some few extras on it, including the black styling pack on the exterior. Now, I mean, that's not what you call cheap in anybody's language, but it is a bit better value than the new E-Class, than the new 5 Series. And obviously, it does offer a diesel engine, which the E-Class does, but the 5 Series doesn't. So if you are still a committed diesel buyer for whatever reason, whether you are someone who does have to spend all day, every day on motorways like this one, a task for which electric cars are still somewhat limited, then yeah, it does still make a bit of sense, and it's certainly slightly more bang for your buck. It's also a really good looking car, which is not something you can truly say about the 5 Series or the E-Class at this point. Those are both, I would say, more striking than they are handsome. The Audi is the other way around. Indeed, in that respect, it's almost a little bit too predictable. It does look arguably a little bit too much like the A4 and the A8. There is that stacking Russian doll effect in the Audi lineup, which is maybe not the best, but still, it is still a good-looking car. I don't think there's any question of that. I mean, I am genuinely excited about the prospect of that incoming electric A6 e-tron. I think that's a fantastic-looking car, at least the concept version is, and the final production version should be pretty close to that. And if it can match this A6 for comfort, for refinement, and just for the kind of general deportment of it, then it will be a very impressive car. If it can also hit its claimed range of over 600 kilometers on a full charge, well, it'll only be getting about half as much range on a tank as this diesel one will, but it'll still be pretty impressive by EV standards, let's face it. And obviously better for the environment, better for air quality, and all that kind of thing. In the meantime, and indeed alongside the e-tron for a little while at least, this A6 diesel does act as a reminder of just what a pinnacle of engineering achievement combustion engine cars reached before they were usurped by battery power. battery powered cars will evolve and develop and become better and longer ranged, and the charging network will catch up at some point and will allow for easier driving on long hauls and for more consistent charging and so on, and will make life just generally a bit nicer all round. But in the meantime, this is still a pretty impressive exemplar of the engineer's art when it comes to suck, squeeze, bang, blow engines. It's a very impressive machine, even if there is always that tickle of conscience about actually driving a diesel in this day and age.